Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode. I'm absolutely thrilled to have back with me Gene Dowdy. Gene, first of all, welcome back to the pod.
Thank you, Tom. Great to be here.
Gene, we're here to talk about what I think is some pretty exciting news about your upcoming July 4th concert. So, could we just start with that right out of the box?
Absolutely. It's number one on my mind for the last several months preparing for this event. It's such an important part of community responsibility to celebrate our nation's founding 250th. So the semi-quincentennial, or I think that's what it's called, that deserves a place in our art. So our community's artistic response, whether it be beautiful flags of the Union that Bobby Cahill, an artist from San Antonio, his daughter is the principal violist in the Symphony. He's drawn or painted a beautiful series of historic images of our nation's flag. Those will be displayed in the lobby of the Callow at the concert. So I start with that just to show you that it's meaningful to look back over our time as a country. So not only are we celebrating this wonderful patriotic event, we also know that a year ago, 2025, July 4 will never mean the same thing in Texas again because of that tragic flood. And I feel like that, again, our art institutions are part of the response. We responded from the very beginning, not only with our musicians in the river and helping people recover, but also musically, that we changed our program to offer music that would be appropriate to memorialize, to grieve together. Music offers just unexpressible emotion, and sometimes we don't know what to say. And we're going to do that again this Saturday, July 4th, 4 o'clock in the Callow. The Symphony is assembled. It's our first summer concert in the 15 years I've been a part of the orchestra. So it's very exciting. And of course, we're going to play wonderfully patriotic music, things like Aaron Copland's historic Lincoln portrait, narrated by the Honorable Mayor Joe Herring. We're going to have Sarah Davis, a fabulous soprano from Texas, singing God Bless America with the Symphony, but also closing the concert with Amazing Grace, because we needed grace and still do to get through the things that we're getting through, not only as a Kerrville community, but as a state and a nation. So I think that is appropriate at any time. We're going to play the March of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which made Sarah Davis, our soprano, smile because her mother is a daughter of the American Revolution, the DAR. We're doing a reading of the 119 names, those people who were lost in the flood. Governor Greg Abbott has agreed to come to the concert. He will read the names of the 119 souls who perished that day while the orchestra plays a poignant piece by J.S. Bach, his heir. So it's going to be an amazing concert. It's in every way, shape, or form celebratory, but also remembering and memorializing. So I know I've been going on about it, but I just think it's the most important thing that we're doing right now with the Symphony.
So, we've had the opportunity to visit on the topic of art and music in our grieving process. And we visited about what you and the Symphony did on your first concert. How would you view this concert as, I don't want to say a different goal, but a different type of music that we would need 1 year later?
That's a great question, because how we respond depends on where we are in our recovery. I understand that grieving is a process. I understand that there's stages of grief that people go through. So whether we had somebody close to us who passed, or guaranteed we know somebody who was affected by that flood, things change. So here we are a year later. Part of it is, where are we? Where do we want to be? I've been so impressed with the community's, the speed of the recovery, I think. Now, it may not be fast enough for some, but from my vantage point, I've been excited by seeing the new homes springing up along the river valley, seeing art institutions doing more and more music, art, dance, writing, songwriting. So the symphony's right there. It's different this time because we're a year out. And we will celebrate a little bit because wasn't it a wasn't it a tremendous irony that such a tragic event could happen on such a glorious holiday? So people camping and celebrating the 4th, there's just nothing more American than a good outdoor picnic and being outside with nature and celebrating your country. And I just think of so many events that I've been to over the years that have music and food and people. I just picture laughing and kids running around. And so this event, because it's changed for us, we're going to have a combination of things. So it's different this time because we're in a different place. So when Sarah sings God Bless America, it's going to have a different tenor to it because we are blessed. This country is blessed beyond measure. This community, Stacy and I have been here 3 years now. We just love Kerrville. We think it's a blessing just to live here and to see the people we see, the institutions that are around, the healthcare industry. You and I have talked a lot about healthcare. This community provides so many wonderful things, and the response to that flood was tremendous. So we're going to sing about how God has blessed us. Here's an interesting thing that'll be very different. We always start every concert with the national anthem. So Sarah will sing the national anthem. The whole symphony will be on stage playing and everybody in attendance. And I hope the Callow Theater is full. We'll be there singing the national anthem together. But right after that, Tom, as soon as we finish, "In the home of the brave," when we hit that home of the brave, boom, we go right into Aaron Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man. And that piece, it's so powerful. And you know what? The funny thing about Fanfare for the Common Man, you think of a fanfare as being like, I think of John Williams' Fanfare for the Olympics. It's all sparkling and brilliant and happy. The Fanfare for the Common Man is poignant and powerful, just like his Lincoln Portrait. You would think these would be upbeat pieces. Aaron Copland, I think he saw America as a place where we're thankful for what we have. It's a powerful country, but it's a responsibility. And his words through Gettysburg Address, the different things that'll be read during his writings that the mayor will narrate, I think it's powerful. So again, how is it different? Because now we're celebrating our country, but at the same time reflecting on what has happened to us and how we're changed.
Let's turn to the celebratory part. You are correct. This is obviously the 250th birthday of America. I was a teenager in 1976, and I remember how powerful that event was for me. And I've tried to communicate to others that I want today's teenager to remember this at 300 and maybe compare and contrast, but certainly understand the scope and breadth and scope of America. How can we celebrate through music literally 250 years?
That's a great question. And I too was 16 in 1976, our nation's bicentennial. That was a great year. I have the little coins, you probably do too, the quarters that
Right.
have the bicentennial on it. This will be celebratory in that the music selected is all about America and also Texas's place in America. And that's an unusual part of American history, because if you think about the colonies, and then as the states added on, Texas was first a republic. So when Texas joined the Union, it wasn't like, okay, here's another frontier, let's call it something, and then just vote it in. Texas had to say, hey, we're going to become, so it was almost like a merger of countries in a way, if you will. I think some people still think of Texas as its own country. We're going to actually do a piece by a Texas composer named Joe Stussy, and it's called A Texas State of Mind. And that piece of music for the orchestra has all these Texas tunes in it. So it has of course, our state song, Texas, Our Texas, but it also has, you'll hear medleys of other important songs in Texas, the Yellow Rose of Texas. You might recognize a school song or two, as in The Eyes of Texas or the Aggie War Hymn. Both of those are quoted in the piece. So I hope we don't have any school shouting in there, but I think it'll show our expression of pride in our great educational institutions in the state. So, yeah, there's a lot to celebrate. I think that the Daughters of the American Revolution March, I think that reflects our country's dependence on organizations that continue to lift the torch for our soldiers. I think about the Wounded Warriors Project, how important that is. It's not a government agency, that's a group of people who care. So, Daughters of the American Revolution, same thing. Man, they keep things going, they keep history alive for us. So again, there's a lot to celebrate. God Bless the USA, Lee Green. I just love that song.
So one of my observations on the difference in 250 and 200 is that 200, that celebration, it seemed to me was much more about the breadth and scope and history of America. And I learned more about American history probably in the lead up to that as much as I learned in the classroom setting. But it was, I don't want to say top down, but it was the government really led the effort, the federal government. I don't feel that way this time. And I don't know if that's the political situation. I don't know if it's this administration, but what I see is, and what I feel is local communities coming together to celebrate it in a way I did not see in 1976. And so I was wondering if you might reflect on the symphony as literally an institution within the local community, allowing us to celebrate musically.
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about it till you said that. That's true. And I mentioned the coins that were issued by the US government. So I agree that was a very much top down type of celebration. 250, it's a little different. First off, I think there's a lot going on in our nation right now that is maybe consuming some of the light. And you're quite right that here locally, we're probably not going to let that slow us down to celebrate our country's founding. And if you really want to think about it, maybe it's trite to say, but we are America with this right here in Kerrville. So it's as representative as any place I've ever lived. A symphony can be a community's reverberating board. I don't know how else to say it. I think about Beethoven and how he was deaf, so he would have to lay his head on the piano and hear the tones as he played them. And maybe that's an analogy for what we have to do. We're not there in Washington, but we're here, we're together, and we're leaning in to express together through music. And I think the symphony is a perfect vehicle for that type of celebration, that because you're going to get toe tapping tunes, we're going to do a piece called American Salute. It celebrates our armed forces. And how does it do it? By taking the tune When Johnny Comes Marching Home. That expresses a lot about a country's responsibility. And we've been at war a fair amount in our days, and talking about soldiers returning. And I think of it as even first responders, that they spend all this time in the field, and then when they come home, think about it, it's a somber melody. So it's a minor melody. Shouldn't that be, again, a happy thing? But I think that's what the point I was getting after earlier, that celebrating something so wonderful as our country, there's always going to be a poignant side to it, because it's a serious responsibility to be a responsible citizen. And so we're just taking that and running with it. All the pieces are going to be uplifting, but also recognizing, because part of our theme for this concert is remembrance and resilience. So we're trying to help bounce back. We want people to feel like, yeah, we've been working hard to recover. Let's take a moment to wave a flag and enjoy some good music.
If I could, I would ask you to turn now to the upcoming season, since I have you here, and I'm certainly going to visit with you again on it. But I wanted to see if you could preview the upcoming 2026-27 season for us.
Absolutely. I appreciate you asking. I'm going to refer to my handy rack card that I brought you. But yeah, next season, a season of story and song, we're calling it. And so every concert has an ampersand in it. So for example, our first concert, Weber and Brahms. So we will kick off in October with Phantom of the Opera by Andrew Lloyd Webber, just one of the greatest movie scores and movie musicals America enjoys. Speaking of our patriotism, frankly, American musical and film score composers. They're the best in the world. John Williams, Andrew Lloyd Webber, just name a great movie composer, and they're probably American. We just love that. So we're going to very much lean into the visual of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. We'll have two singers singing just some of the most gorgeous music. But then we're coupling Andrew Lloyd Webber with Johannes Brahms, the great romantic symphonist. And Johannes Brahms had a hero. His hero was Ludwig van Beethoven. So when the great Beethoven passed away, Brahms refused to write a symphony for 30 years in his career. He was writing everything else, songs, chamber music, anything you can make music about, but he did not write a symphony until later in his life because he was so awed by Beethoven's 9 symphonies. So when he wrote his first symphony, he set it in the same key as Beethoven's Symphony number 5. So that great C minor symphony, Brahms does the same thing. So our Kerrville people will get a chance to hear Weber and Brahms. Second concert, Comfort and Joy. So we're talking about Christmas. We've got the best music looking at Christmas. And again, talk about film score. I didn't even think about it till talking to you, but we're going to do that beautiful suite from Home Alone by John Williams. And the chorus part is just about the sweetest thing you've ever heard. So our Hill Country Chorale will be singing the songs from Home Alone with the symphony backing them up. We'll also have a wonderful set of carols called The Many Moods of Christmas. In January, we have our Pops concert. That is Heroes and Villains. And in that concert, we're going to juxtapose people like Conan the Barbarian. First off, is Conan a hero or a villain? I'm not quite sure. His battle armor and violence you might think he's a villain, but the fact is he frees some enslaved people and rises up against a terrible tyrant. So anyway, it's sometimes I guess you do have to use a little violence to accomplish peace. I guess we could have another podcast about that. And then, of course, Heroes and Villains. We're going to do the music of William Tell. That's another heroic tale. So anyway, that's going to be a fun concert looking at heroes and villains.
I hope Darth Vader will be included.
I think we do have something like that. I don't want to give away any tales. But our fourth concert, Tom, Frontiers and Freedom, all about American composers. And that concert is also our side-by-side with the local Hill Country Youth Orchestra, which you are so familiar with as a board member. And we're so proud to sit with those kids. They're so talented. And so we usually dedicate one concert every year or two to have the Hill Country Youth Orchestra featured. They're going to be sitting with the symphony members, playing several selections. We are going to have a great piano piece on that concert, Leroy Anderson's Piano Concerto. Everybody knows Leroy Anderson for his popular music, but this is a piano concerto that he wrote. We're also going to feature a new work, Rhapsody in Red, White, and Blue, that is an American piano concerto. We're going to have a wonderful pianist, Jeffrey Beagle, on that concert. Our final concert brings back Nancy Zoe. She's one who's known to the Hill Country and Texas community because she's from here. Her father, Long Zoe, was a former concertmaster of our symphony. And Nancy grew up here. She played with the orchestra many times as a youth. She was so talented and is now a major international concert artist living in California. She's coming back to play the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto with the symphony. It's just going to be, that one's called Romance and Passion. So that's the ampersand for Concert 5. So there's our season. Thank you for asking about it.
Gene, I'd like to end by asking you a 2-part question. Number one, could you reflect on what July 4th has meant to you and means to you today? And what does America 250 mean to you?
Oh, that's the hardest question you've asked me, because I so often find myself speaking in kind of holistic global terms, because I represent the symphony, I represent Shriner, you represent financial institutions, things that you do. So me personally, July 4th is the first image that comes to my mind is the battlefield, that we earned our independence by basically claiming a new land. And people came over here. It wasn't a guarantee when people came to America. So July 4th to me means going for something that is probably not thought of as the wise choice. but it's the right choice. And so sometimes when I think of July 4, I frankly think of conflict, but I think of, wow, was that worth it? So that I don't know how to contain that into anything different. And then the 250th, wow, we've made it this long. You can point to a lot of countries that did not make it so long. And the ones who made it longer in history tended to be tyrannical regimes. And isn't it a miracle that a democracy founded on pluralism and not elitism has made it this long? And I'm with you. There's things that we need to really keep our eye on right now as a country. We still need to defend and claim what is ours. Sometimes you have to reclaim things. So I think there's a little bit of a power struggle about that, but also on our 250th, making sure that we sustain into the future. So I'm very hopeful. I love this country. I know everybody in this room does, and everybody in this community does. And so, yeah, it's worth fighting for. So let's keep the fight going, I guess.
Gene, as excited as I was about the concert, I'm even more excited now. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time to visit with us, and I look forward to seeing you on the 4th.
Okay. Have a great week and a happy Independence Day to everybody.